Hey everybody, very excited to be driving the 4th generation 2022 Lexus LX600 F-Sport. F-Sport? Yes, F-Sport. As I said, this is the 4th generation Lexus LX. The first one came to us in 1995 as a 1996 model year, and it's been slowly building and progressing over time to become this thing you see before you now. Now, this is a brand new SUV in just about every way. It is now built on the global F platform, the GAF platform for Toyota/Lexus, and that means that this is actually riding on the same body-on-frame construction as the new for 2022 Toyota Tundra, which is also the same platform as the global Toyota Land Cruiser, as it always has been. The difference is that there is not a US-bound Toyota Land Cruiser for 2022. Sad face. But on a slightly brighter note, it is also the same platform for the upcoming 2023 Toyota Sequoia. So if not by name or perhaps exact specification, at least in spirit, the Land Cruiser does continue on here in the United States, but by different names. And you notice that I said it right off the top, F-Sport. F-Sport in a full-size Lexus SUV. Yes, it is one of 2 new trims being added to the LX, the other one being something called Ultra Luxury. So with the addition of those 2 new trims, we now have 5 trims of LX you can choose from: Standard, Premium, this F-Sport right here, Luxury, and Ultra Luxury. But in a lot of ways, I think it's almost better to think of it as 4 trims of Lexus LX and one kind of like separated LX Ultra Luxury. But none of those trims are cheap. The base price for the standard Lexus LX600 is $88,245. The base price for this F-Sport is $102,345. My test car cost $107,585. But check this out. The next one up, the second to the highest, is the Luxury, and that costs $104,345 base price. And then the base price for the Ultra Luxury is $127,245. And I will tell you more about why in a little while. With that, let me pull over and show you around and inside the car. It's got a couple of things. All right, everybody, let's take a closer look at this brand new 2022 Lexus LX600 F-Sport. Now, this particular one is painted in manganese luster, which is a $595 optional paint color, and it is a nice looking SUV. It's definitely big, over 200 inches long. It's definitely squared off, but I think it's the right combination of classic proportions and modern touches to work. Looking at the car from the front, you have that very large and in charge spindle grille that just kind of dominates every part of the Lexus LX600. But as far as Lexus grills go, it really isn't that bad. And I do like these like 3 projector beam headlights right here, and this kind of like check mark daytime running light built in right there. I think that's a nice look. Looking in the car in profile, it's definitely big. It's definitely got that classic 2-box shape. And I will go ahead and put the dimensions on the screen right now so you can get a sense of how big it is. This is actually, because it's an F-Sport, 4/10 of an inch shorter than the other models. So 200.2 inches instead of 200.6. That's a fun little thing. And while we're here, I'll go ahead and let you know that I have a full set of specifications in the description of the video. But in profile, you can see some nice details. For example, I do like this polished metal look around the window trim right here. It kind of goes on and then gets fatter into this point right here in the back, which would be the D pillar right there. And you can see these large crossbars that are on the car right here. These are a $450 option. 2 sets, that's the back one. Here's the front one. And when we drive it on the interstate, those will definitely play a role with wind noise. But I do think that this polished metal rack for the crossbars is a nice touch as well. One other thing, I mentioned that this truck is lighter than the outgoing model. Well, that's partially because the doors, both the front and the back, are now aluminum. Also, you've got these 22-inch wheels on a Lexus LX. And not only are they 22-inch wheels, those are forged alloy 22-inch wheels. It's just kind of incredible to say that. Also, one thing I wanted to show you is that it does have a double wishbone front suspension right there and a solid axle rear suspension, which you can see right there. And that just kind of highlights some of its similarities with the truck as well as its off-roading roots. Now, this particular LX600 is also equipped with the $1,300 active height control system. I'm going to take a quick moment and jump in and show you the different ride heights that you can achieve. There are 4 height levels. The lowest one is only available when you're getting in and out of the vehicle, and then there's normal ride height, high 1, and high 2. This is currently its lowest setting. That will go up to normal. All right, now we're at normal. We'll go up to high 1, and now high 2. So yeah, not only does it have these adjustable ride heights, they happen pretty quickly. And also, there's another way to look if you want. You can see right here, we're currently at high 2, go down to high 1, now normal, and now low. Pretty sweet. Looking at the car from the back, it's very squared off here and pretty simple. You know, you do have a nice roof mounted spoiler for all that needed downforce, and you do also have no fake exhausts of any kind, just one real one right down there doing exactly what it should do. I love it. Okay, of course there's a lot of ways to open the rear hatch, but we'll just go ahead and use the lift gate button itself, all electronic. When you open this up, you'll find that you actually don't have a lot of space back here. Now, you do have AC power, that's right there, and you do have some buttons right here, which I'll show you in just a second, but you have precious little space right here. Now, Lexus says that this is 11 cubic feet of storage behind the third row. These 2 buttons right here make it really easy to fold the third row down, and it's actually a pretty complicated motion, and I'll show you from the other perspective so you can see. But folding the third row gives us a nice and flat 44 cubic feet of storage here and a nice flat floor. So that is much more generous and gives you plenty of space for stuff if you need it. If you don't have any people to carry, but you have even more stuff, you can fold down the second row as well. And now you have 64 feet of storage space and comfortable room for 2. So I'm not going to sit in the third row because it is very clearly made for kids, but I am going to show you how this thing articulates and folds up because it's kind of awesome engineering. So real quick, you have buttons for folding the third row here as well, in addition to the very back. So I'm going to go ahead and lift them now. So you can see the seat back comes up, but then the seat bottoms actually come and pop out as well. Very, very cool. All right, second row. I am 5'11" or 181 centimeters tall, and I am plenty comfortable in the second row. The seat bottoms are a touch on the low side for me, so I only have so-so thigh support, but as you can see, I have plenty of knee room, and I have about a 90-degree bend in my knee. Also, I have 4-zone climate control, plus heated and cooled seats for either outbound second row seat. So that's a really nice luxury as well. Also, there's more charging options right here, a couple of USB Type-C ports, and then a standard charge port right there. And I do also have shade right here that I can put up if I want. And if I don't have a third passenger in the seat here, I do of course get an armrest with cup holders. Hey, hey. All right, let's go check out the front row. This is a really nice interior, and the single most expensive option on this particular SUV is this 25-speaker Mark Levinson sound system. Just beneath that are your power windows, power locks, side view mirror adjustment. You do also have 3-position seat memory. It is up there. The seat has many, many controls. This one right here is a favorite. It is thigh support. You can see it moving right there. You have the standard stuff here as well as lumbar support. The seats themselves have pretty decent upper bolsters and satisfactory lower bolsters, but the material is quite nice and generally speaking very comfortable. And I do get a kick out of the fact that it says F Sport embossed into the headrest. You do have aluminum pedals, they are down there. You do have tilt and telescope steering adjustment. It is powered, it is right there. And I will admit that I do like these metal F Sport kick plates as well. Push button start is up high. You do have real gauges on either side of a multi-information display in the middle. You do of course have paddle shifters, upshift, downshift for your 10-speed transmission, as well as many buttons on the steering wheel. Here's your adaptive cruise control. Here's some other media adjustments down here. Moving over here, this is a 12.3-inch ultra widescreen center console touchscreen right here with a real volume button and knob right there, just above the push button engine start that I was talking about. And just beneath that, this is a 7-inch additional screen right here, which gives you more information. You can see the climate control information as well as some vehicle stuff right here. In fact, you already saw the screen when I showed you the active height adjustment right there. You have a pretty standard looking Prindle right here. And just next to that, you do have heated and cooled seats in front as well as a heated steering wheel. Looking even further down, we do have electric parking brake, auto hold, this is diff lock, traction control adjustment, and those are the buttons for the active height control that I was showing you. And right next to that is a Qi wireless charger and some cup holders. And even further down, here is your lower center console storage. It opens like this, but this is one neat trick that Lexus does that I really like. Open from the driver's side, opens from the driver's side, open from the passenger side, opens for the passenger. Oh, one other cool feature about this lower center console space, you have what's called a cool box. Press that and it becomes an air-conditioned space. Looking up, we do have a sunglasses holder, and we do also have a moonroof with a manually adjusting privacy panel. Now, as you would guess, this has a lot of different controls and settings on it and stuff like that, but a big thing that Lexus likes to promote is its voice activation technology and how well it works. And as far as these systems go, I do think it is better than average. So I will do an example. Hey Lexus.
How can I help you?
Set the temperature to 72 degrees.
Setting the driver's seat temperature to 72 degrees.
And there you go. Quickly moving back over here, the LX does have a lot of different cameras mounted on it, and you can look at the different views by pressing this button right here. This is a good time to point out that this is a full-time four-wheel drive system, but it does have a transfer case. So you have 4 high and 4 low. And then drive modes, we select drive modes, and then this is the mode select button. So I'm in drive modes, but I'll move over to this screen right here, and I turn the dial. You can see that I have 6 drive modes: Eco, Comfort, Normal, Sport, Sport Plus, in a 200-inch long large SUV, and Custom. That's pretty slick. But I also have MTS, or Multi-Terrain Select. And now I can choose between Auto, Dirt, Sand, Mud, or Deep Snow. Pretty clever. And I also have DAC/crawl. DAC stands for Downhill Assist Control, and crawl is like a crawling cruise control. To use this, you have to be in 4 low, but that gives you even more options in terms of going over different terrain. So you can see, at least in terms of technology, that the LX600 is a legit off-roader. I'm going to stay on the roads, but hey, let's get back to the drive. Let's dig into that powertrain. And just like the frame, just like the chassis of this gets the same engine as the 2022 Toyota Tundra, almost. It is a 3.4 liter twin turbocharged V6. Now, I say 3.4 liter, it is very, very close to a 3.5 liter. It is 3,445 cubic centimeters, or cc's, so right on the cusp between 3.4 and 3.5 liter. In the Tundra, I called it a 3.5 liter and then saw the cc number, so I'm making that adjustment. But anyway, it also makes the same torque as that engine, which in the Toyota is called I-Force, which is 479 pound-feet, but it does make 20 more horsepower. And that's because while it makes the same amount of torque, it reaches its peak and holds onto that peak longer than it does in the Tundra. And if you're familiar with the Toyota Tundra outputs, then you know that that means it makes 409 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. The Tundra consistency continues because we get the same 10-speed automatic transmission. This is an appropriate engine for the Lexus, especially a six-figure Lexus. The engine note is muted, it's in the background, it's subtle, it's not coarse or crass, it's got a nice smooth mellow tone. Of course, it's bolstered by that 10-speed automatic transmission, which gives you plenty of ratio range so that you can have nice aggressive off-the-line acceleration, but also low engine speeds while cruising on the interstate, and also have all the ratios in between that you're never far away from the torque peak or the horsepower peak. Now, in terms of sound and even sound quality, yes, I agree that it would be even better with a V8, but I'm an old driving enthusiast curmudgeon, and what do I know? Ironically enough, fuel economy also matches the Toyota Tundra. In fact, I reviewed a Toyota Tundra recently and had the exact same fuel economy, 17 miles to the gallon in the city, 22 miles to the gallon on the highway, 19 combined. So not great fuel economy, certainly, especially with the hybrid options out there these days. But considering the size and the weight of this thing, nearly 3 tons, that's completely respectable. And while fuel economy is very important, it is not nearly as much fun as accelerating. And of course, I had to try that out. Let me show you right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test. I do have the LX600 in Sport Plus mode. I do also have the traction control off. So let's see what this turbocharged 3.5 liter can do. All right, come to a complete stop. Bit of brake torque. 2,500, 2,600 RPM. Here we go. Oh, good jerk back into the seat. Good fast shifts from the transmission. And pretty darn decent hustle. You know, we are hustling here. We are moving. It's not a huge thrust your back into the seat kind of acceleration, but Lexus does claim 0 to 60 in less than 7 seconds, 6.9 seconds, and I think that's entirely feasible. You know, this turbocharged 3.5 liter V6 is stout, more than 400 horsepower. The 10-speed transmission keeps you in nice torque and power ranges and shifts quickly. So yeah, nothing about it's dramatic or exhilarating, but totally competent, plenty of power, nice and stout. All right, everybody, time for a handling test. This is an F Sport after all. And I do have an F Sport tuned suspension. I have adaptive variable suspension, and I even have a Torsen limited slip differential. So the fact that this is a 200-inch SUV, let's see how it goes. There we go, decent pickup. Okay, so I do have the truck in Sport Plus mode, and I have both the vehicle stability control off and the traction control off. Yeah, but it's still a big SUV, and you can still definitely tell. Oh man, yeah, still a decent amount of body roll, still not a lot of grip. Body control's okay, and it's not flopping around, but it's definitely still a big, heavy SUV that rolls around. Front end response is okay considering the size of this vehicle, but steering certainly isn't fast, and front end response is, you know, a bit on the lazy side, but it's totally competent for a big 3-row SUV. It's just all the F Sport and all these things that you'd expect on, like, you know, proper sports car things, even Torsen limited slip differential. You know, that's where you start to say, okay. So yes, F Sport, yes, 22-inch wheels, yes, all these things, but also yes, physics. Also yes, really big 3-row SUV, really big luxurious 3-row SUV. Totally competent. Nothing about it is dangerous or unsafe or unsettling, but it is certainly nothing close to any kind of sports car or even sport SUV. Let's get more into the core of what this Lexus LX600 should be, and that is a fantastic SUV to ride in, and it is indeed that. the fact that we have this adjustable suspension that gives you different ride heights and 6 different drive modes that includes variable damping with the shock absorbers, you do have a very comfortable ride. I'm on a very bumpy ribbed road right here, and even that is still quite comfortable. The seats are very, very comfortable. I love the fact that it is standard across the board, heated and cooled seats for both the first and outer second row. I think that's a class move on Toyota's part and only adds to the comfort. The fact that you've got 19.3 inches worth of center console touchscreens to work with and things to adjust and all those kinds of things, I think that's super cool. So this is a very pleasant car to ride in and soak up the miles. And of course, the seat adjustability as well made my comfort level nice and exact. And all of what I said is true on roads like this or on the interstate. I took it out there, as well as tried some of the driver assist systems. Let me show you that right now. All right, everybody, time for a drive on the interstate. I do have the LX600 back in comfort mode. Of course, I have traction control back on and all that kind of stuff. We do have Toyota Safety Sense Plus 2.5, which means we have adaptive cruise control, lane centering, and steering assist, and all these kinds of other things. So we'll have that stuff on, see how it goes, and yeah, see how it feels on the interstate generally. Okay, we are up to speed, currently going with traffic right around 75 miles an hour at the moment. I do have adaptive cruise control on. I also have lane centering active, and I have steering assist active. Generally speaking, Toyota systems, in terms of lane centering especially, work really, really well, where you're actually in the center of the lane, not just kind of like riding one of the lane markers or anything like that. So now that we've got a straightaway here, I will lift my hands off the steering wheel and see what it does. And so, yep, we're getting little tweaks in the steering, and not quite perfectly center, but pretty darn close. Just trundling along right as rain, you could say. Okay, LTA, hold steering wheel. Yes, sir, LTA. So, yeah, that works really well. And then more fundamentally, what we do have is excellent road and wind noise isolation. So road noise isolation especially is really, really good. These tires are quite quiet, which is nice because, as I showed you earlier, they're not terribly grippy. Wind noise isn't fantastic, but it is generally quite good. And I think the only reason why it's not fantastic is because we have such a huge frontal area here. This is just a big SUV. So we are just pushing a lot of air out of the way. So considering all that, I think it is generally quite quiet. Also, engine noise is quite subdued. We're traveling 78 miles an hour now. We're not turning much more than 1600 RPM. And we have really just a nice array of amenities, easy to reach controls for the big wide center console touchscreen, another screen below that, 4-zone climate control, so everyone can stay comfortable however they find their own comfort. Everything about this car is very comfortable and supportive, and I would be quite happy to do a nice long road trip in this. A truck-based body-on-frame full-size SUV may very well indeed be asked to tow, and yes, this LX600 can do exactly that. Toyota says it can tow 8,000 pounds. Now, that's well off of what a full-size pickup truck can do, but it still gets you into very healthy levels of recreational equipment, considering what this SUV is and its price. Pulling horses and a horse trailer would be completely reasonable in this, not to mention plenty of different size boats and campers and all those kinds of things. But I also showed you in the walk around that this has quite a lot of legit off-roading kit, and that includes some of the core dimensions and structures of this thing as well. When you look at approach, departure, and breakover angles, Lexus claims that this can climb a 45-degree grade and that you can travel through up to 2¼ foot deep paths of water. That is 27.5 inches of water. I did mention it earlier, we do need to talk about this ultra luxury Lexus LX a little bit more. That one really is something, because that is the same size as this, same powertrain and all those kinds of things, but it is a 4-seat configuration version of the Lexus LX, and every single one of the 4 seats has just mountains of luxury options. And in fact, the rear seats have massive levels of incline in the seats and also footrests and all these different things you can do to make yourself have lots of comfort, lots of space, and really just have a very luxurious driving experience. And that is actually the exact same seating configuration that I experienced in the Mercedes Maybach GLS 600, and that was more than $127,000. So the fact that you can get that level of comfort in the Lexus is really saying something, and it is very expensive, but it is also very much less expensive than the other SUVs that can do that. Put it all together, and what do you have? You have what I think is just the most interesting thing. The large luxury SUV that is making the value play in the market, you could argue. The fact that this costs well under a Mercedes Maybach, well under a Bentley Bentayga, and yet to a certain extent plays in that ballpark is pretty cool. But that also means that you're getting lots and lots of space and luxury that is available to a larger percentage of the population because of its lower cost. And it's doing all that while maintaining the off-roading chops of the Toyota Land Cruiser, and that's really nice because this is kind of like the spiritual successor to the Toyota Land Cruiser. I'm Robin Warner, thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I would really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Those things really do help me out a lot. Okay, goodbye. Really not bad. Really not bad.